Today I want to give you my top 12 books that I think every girl boss should have on her bookshelf, or coach or online business owner or anybody else who really is trying to make an impact in 2018. I really truly think these books will change your life. They will change the way you think about running your business, how you interact with other people, and possibly change you as a person. So I know they've made a huge impact on me. I do love books and I love reading, and I mean everything fiction, nonfiction. I even have, as you know, probably a separate channel just on booktubing, author tubing, and I write books, so I'm all about books. So let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Pretty Fabulous, and I help online business owners create beautiful digital downloads using Adobe InDesign. So if this sounds like you or something you might be interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe link below. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday. Now today I have books that I have a million books, like millions and millions on my Kindle, in my bookshelves, in my closets, just everywhere that you could possibly store a book, and that is even with me culling out books all the time. So let's get into our first book. Now these first two I'm going to put together because I love reading quotes, and I think everybody else does too. You know, if you go to my Instagram, that for Lisa Siefert, it's just instagram.com, my name, and that is just quotes, and that has a ton of followers, more followers than any of the other platforms I'm trying to get followers on, because it's just full of quotes and that's it. And so whenever I need quotes, it's this one. It's called What Now, and I actually lost the cover. I got this when I was at GE back in 1998, so it's been quite a while. But this book has a ton of information. It's really meant, I think, for someone who's graduating high school or college, and it has, a section called The Meanings of Success, but it's taken quotes, like there's a quote here from Anthony Robbins, one from Herschel Walker, another one from Arthur Ashe, Emily Dickinson, just a ton of great quotes that are sprinkled all throughout, and not just quotes that, fit onto an Instagram square, but these are really, some of them are pretty long, like a long paragraph here, in case you're ever kind of just needing some inspiration or motivation. And I think that's really important sometimes especially when you work from home. The other book is called How Successful People Think by John C. Maxwell, and this is a pretty quick read. It kind of reads like a blog post. I like it. It's obviously very tiny, but this will just it tries to change your habits and show you kind of where you're not doing so great in life, I guess, but it's a quick read. I like reading, just kind of breezing through it, because I forget. I always just forget. But when you read it, it's one of those things where you're like, wow, that's such great advice. Now, the next two are what I call Captain Obvious types of advice. These aren't my favorite books, but I did get them because I've heard so many great things about them, and they're pretty popular. But Girl Code by Kara Alwileva, I don't know if I'm saying that right, is again a thin book. It's a pretty quick read, and it just has lots of just regular online business stuff. There's nothing really new in here, but it's just kind of entertaining because she does do a couple interviews with other people that I had never heard of. The other one is Lily Singe, How to Be a Boss. Now, if you're not familiar with Lily Singe, she has a super crazy popular YouTube entertainment channel called Superwoman, and she has tons of celebrities on there, like Seth Rogen. She was talking about kissing him for a skit, James Franco, Will Smith. I mean, there's tons of people on her skits. She has like a professional production team helping her out as well. Now, again, these are, if you've ever seen Lily Singe's Instagram, you have to check it out. I mean, every photo on there is perfect because she has a professional photographer taking all those photos. In fact, Gala Darling has a professional photographer that follows her around for all of her Instagram and blog post pictures as well. And she has another book, which I didn't even mention here, but it's called Radical Self-Love. And if you have, I don't want to say self-confidence issues, but if you've ever thought like, maybe I'm just lacking a little confidence and, I just want to love myself exactly where I am. Like I'm not trying to self-help myself into being 50 pounds thinner or, making $1 million. I just want to like who I am today. Then Radical Self-Love is a really great self-published book by Gala Darling. Now this book is filled, just like I said, with beautiful pictures and in fact, beautiful fonts and little boxes like this. I don't even know if you can see because it's so overexposed, but this was, like I said, Captain Obvious. So there's really nothing new in here, and that's okay. It was a really quick read, and I think if you really like her channel, then you might like this. But just keep in mind, if you're looking for tips on how to run a great YouTube channel or how to run a channel like hers, you are not going to find it in here. It is not a how-to book. It's just kind of a collection of, her random thoughts that are going on. The next books are, well, the next 5 books are all by men. And so the first one is Ask Gary Vee. Now, Gary Vee is, I think, a genius, and not just social media marketing, just in general, in the way he sees the world and how he's able to convey information and thoughts and ideas. And if you've seen the show, you've probably seen a lot of these questions being answered. But if you've just discovered Gary Vee or you've never heard of him, this is a really great way to get to know him. Now, he has some other books. His newest book really is Crushing It, that just came out, and I did read that. I think that's a great read as well, but I still like the Ask Gary Vee 1,000 times more because there are so many different situations in here that he's asking, or that he's answering for different questions and industries and different stages of where people are in life, that I think this is going to be much more valuable if you could only get one Gary Vee book read this year. The second one is Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans. Now, I'm not a Tim Ferriss fan. I'm a huge Gary Vee fan, but I'm not really into Tim Ferriss. I didn't really get into the 4-hour work week. I get the concept. But what Tim Ferriss did do is, this is just basically a big collection of blog post interviews. And he's interviewed a lot of top people in the online space. So if that is something that you are interested in, which is something I was interested in, I think this is a great book. Now, these excerpts are not, I guess my biggest complaint would be that they are in no particular order. So they're kind of random. They're all over the place. If you go into this book and you're like, I really want to know about podcasting, tell me everything about podcasting and show me all the interviews with the top people. It is not arranged like that. I do have a bookmark because I wanted to mention he does interview Ramit Sethi, and it also brings up other ideas. Like, for example, Ramit Sethi really loves reading Atul Gawande, and I think I'm saying that right. He's a neurosurgeon, and he talks about being, I think it's called On Mortal or Mortality or something like that. If you've never read a memoir by a neurosurgeon, you have to do that right now. So there's another one that's really famous as well. Phil Vertosick. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. No, Frank Vertosick Jr. And the best book he wrote is When the Air Hits Your Brain. And he was a neurosurgeon, and this book is from, I believe, the 80s. And he's talking about doing residency over in the UK and different situations he goes into. And I honestly don't know what it is about neurosurgery or neurosurgeons, but they write amazing books. They have great stories in them, and they're just very well written, kind of like a Malcolm Gladwell, right? They're just sort of thought leaders that write these really great, interesting aspects or takes or opinions on different situations. So that is another book I would recommend. Now, I know right now the Marie Forleo B School is going around and everyone's talking about this, but you could probably just buy Lewis Howes' School of Greatness, and that would pretty much do it for you. This book goes through, a lot of personal stories that he has, mostly about leaving the semi-pro or something like that, NFL. Now, I did get this signed by Lewis, so I'm excited about that. He was at a book signing here in San Diego, and he made a really great sort of, I'm guessing it was off the cuff, I don't think it was all planned, speech there on just, you know, business in general and life. And this is way before the Mask of Masculinity came out. And I read that. I didn't really obviously identify with that as much, but I have that on tape. So I will actually post that interview sometime later this month. I don't know why, I've just never posted it before, but when I did this book haul, I remembered that I have a really great interview, or not interview, just speech by Lewis Howes from his book signing in San Diego. Now, the next two books are both by Russell Brunson, and unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've heard of him. Russell Brunson owns ClickFunnels, and these books are just amazing. These are those books where you read them and you're like, wow, he's a genius. Like, I should so start doing this right away. I can't believe he's sharing this kind of information. So the first book that he wrote was .com Secrets, and he has, I think you can still, don't quote me on this, but I believe you can still get this book for free and then just pay for shipping and handling, which is pretty much the cost of the book anyway. This book is just everything that you need to get started with basically an online business. It teaches you everything about how funnels work. And then Expert Secrets, I would say, focuses more on a membership and how to grow, you know, a community of fans. And again, it's one of those things where I would read both of these books all the way through, like a really quick read, just sit down and read them, and then go back through them a second time and try to take some notes and write some action plans for yourself, because you're just going to get so overwhelmed by all the great ideas in here, you'll never finish the book. So I would say do that first and then go back and make a list. This one is a really, really old one, but I think it's so important. It's Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. If you're not familiar with Dale Carnegie, he was a door-to-door salesman, like way back in the day, like in, I want to say the 30s, the 20s. He's always talking about his friend, about the Rockefellers and, you know, the oil and Andrew Steele from this, Andrew Carnegie from steel mill industry, but he has stories where they're about cows or farms, like they're really, really old, but they totally make sense. Like, I really think the Dale Carnegie series, like any of his books, will change your life. Like, they change the way that I am and how I interact with people. And I honestly think I'm a better person for just having read his books. Now, he does have, if you go online, they have Dale Carnegie Institute, and they teach people how to do sales and how to do presentation. Like, it's a whole business in and of itself, but the original books are still just gold. Now, the next two books are really, if you are, and I haven't really gotten into this, so I really wanted to try some books on tapping. So the first one is Tapping into Wealth by Margaret M. Lynch, and this is obviously more about money. And if you read the book Rich Bee, and I can't remember who it's by, but she talks a lot about money mindset makeovers and how a lot of things you grew up with or past behaviors sort of shape who you are. And this goes a little further to the next step to implement the tapping method so that you can actually overcome those thoughts and move beyond that. Now, each chapter comes with its own online lesson so that you can start trying to practice the tapping method with the principles that she's outlined here in this book. So that was a really great book. Gabrielle Bernstein wrote a lot of books. I mean, Spirit Junking, all of those things. I'm not, again, I'm not actually a big Gabrielle Bernstein fan, and I heard her speak at, there was a Cosmo event, Cosmo the magazine. I don't know if they do it anywhere else, but when you live in New York, they, well, I guess it doesn't matter if you live in New York, but in New York, they have an annual event called the Fun Fearless Female, and it's hosted by Cosmopolitan, and there's a ton of beauty vendors there and hair care vendors and anything related to women sort of things. And they have a ton of different speakers. It's kind of like a day where in theory you would think Oprah would bring a bunch of people to be interviewed, and Gabrielle Bernstein is pretty much always on the agenda for that day. But she was talking about the a lot, I think she talks a lot more recently about you know, her wanting to have a baby and fertility issues. So if that's something you identify with, for sure, like a lot of her blog posts lately and parts of this book deal with that. And also, and I don't even know why, I bookmarked a couple pages in here on, oh, Joel. So I did not know this. She's actually a big, huge fan of Joel Osteen. And now I don't have one of his books physically, but again, that's another great book. I think you should read any of Joel's books, but I think Joel is actually better listening to him live or in a recording versus his books, which are still great. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge, huge Joel Osteen fan, but I think you get a bigger impact from listening to him. Same thing with Gary Vee. Even though I love this book, I think you get more impact from watching his videos, but he just has so much material. I think it's just easier to get it all in this book. And in fact, Gary actually narrates all of his books. So if you bought his audiobooks, you not only would get to hear him speak, but you'll get to hear him emphasize the parts that he really meant to emphasize in the book. So that's even better. And I put a second bookmark in here for, I'm not sure, oh, the tapping section. So you can jump to 125 if you want, if you're interested in where she starts talking about tapping. All right, so those are my books that I recommend for you for 2018. Go ahead and leave a comment below and let me know if you have any other books that you'd like to recommend for this Girl Boss book list. All right, I will see you guys next week. Bye.